The story of Mordred's death was spread throughout the land by one of Mordred's men who turned and ran when their leader fell. The story grew with each telling, and many secrets became well known, although some others were invented along the way. It became known that the Grail rising to heaven was the reason that all of the leaves of all of Britain retained their red and orange hues through the winter, not falling until the spring. Now the earth belonged to man, all gods and devils having departed to more crimson pastures. Alone, Alexis made her way to what was to become a yearly rendezvous. Since it was still several days away, I made camp at twilight so as to replenish my energies. I was rather troubled now about questions of fate and free action, and of the reliance of one upon the other. Somehow I had known about Mordred's threat, even before I saw him hiding in the grasses that morning. Soon after twilight had gone, the October moon of the harvest rose in the east, looking much larger than it really was.
I now did not feel so alone as I had thought, with that man in the moon looking over my shoulder. I felt somehow protected by that lonely sky face. It was so bright that the only darkness about me was my shadow. I entertained the thought that there were but three at the camp tonight, myself, the moon, and my shadow, a thought that everyone someday entertains on the most moonlit of nights. The moon, which often seemed cold-hearted, was warm tonight. Wherever Percival was that night, I knew that he would see it too.
Some 2 centuries after the time of Alexis, Li Po of China, would write, "I take a bottle of wine and I go drink it among the flowers. We are always 3, counting my shadow and my friend the shimmering moon. Happily the moon knows nothing of drinking, and my shadow is never thirsty. When I sing, the moon listens to me in silence. When I dance, my shadow dances too. After all festivities the guests must depart. This sadness I do not know. When I go home, the moon goes with me and my shadow follows me." Not realizing at first the direction that Alexis would take, even though the clues were there, Percival retired to an ancient inn, the Red Lion, which was also a winery in those days. There was much activity at this time of the year as they brought in the vines and grapes. Would that he could stay longer, for even a day, but it was no day for rest. Guinevere, none the worse for her years of alternate banishment and rescue, continued to find solace in the arms of every man. It was an itch in her blood to find life's passion at every turn. But there were no more nights left to entertain except for one. She began her pilgrimage also, traveling many miles up the coast and sampling man's humanity to women along the way. She came to the still hidden entrance of the shrine grounds and went down a short but steep embankment and saw a crumbling stone house. Behind the house were a series of staggered wide stone expanses, one after the other like steps. Water ran down the steps, falling from one to the next. She took the side trail and traveled ever downward, being careful of the slippery path, now and then grabbing hold of branches. She found her old walking stick where she had hidden it. She circumvented the waterfall of the last ledge by staying up along the banks of the water pool and traveled through the forest a while until she came to the crystal stream. An old abandoned well house still stood there where the stream began at the bottom of some more waterfalls. Meanwhile, Perceval had left the inn with a new sense of purpose, surmising now his destiny. Now and then along the trail, he saw some indications of the prior presence of Alexis. He was reassured to know that she still seemed to care, albeit from a distance. That night, he observed the harvest moon in the sky, and in it saw a hybrid face containing the features of Arthur, old Arthur. It was said that when Arthur died, Merlin rearranged the mountains of the moon to resemble Arthur's face, not as he now appeared, but as how he might have appeared had he ever gotten old. Alexis could not hardly miss the moon this night, he thought, since it really dominated the scene. Percival rode through the night to make his next day's appointment, but he was blocked by a deep blue lake, its other side clouded with mist. Magically, he rode across the water as if on Pegasus. This cloak of enchantment was a strange thing, but was good in that it could not be used only to serve oneself. But the mystery of the lake ride could not yet be solved. Was he near the legendary Avalon? Finally, he saw the hidden shrine entrance and made his way down below the falls, jumping his horse from one ledge to the other with ease. He rode behind the waterfall and came to an old abandoned well house. He followed the path next to the stream, sometimes riding the stream when the path disappeared, and jumping some minor fissures in the rock bed. There was a deep pool from the stream a mile down, but a trickle of the stream continued into a misty moss-green forest, its bed strewn with boulders of all shapes and sizes. Here he had to leave his horse. There were rocks everywhere, the stream carving into them. Years ago, at the west edge of this land, miles away, was the quarry used for Camelot. Another mile of walking down the creek, and there it was, carved out of the stone, the tomb of Lancelot. Already many white flowers, some with but one black spot, lay about the tomb area. The location of the tomb was gradually becoming known. The tomb of the White Knight of Joyous Guard. Atop the tomb structure were two women. Perceval, though still at a distance, could tell by their similar mannerisms and clothes that they might be related, sisters perhaps. As he came closer, a wave of horror swept over his mind, but then he thought it strange to feel that way, for he had not known. How could he have known? But he silently cursed himself for being so blind, for it was none other than Guinevere and Alexis atop the tomb, mother and daughter. He hid in the bushes, not wishing to intrude upon a secret that perhaps Alexis would have shared with him, had he not himself overly shared some of his yearnings for her mother Guinevere when he first met Alexis. Then again, Alexis's keen eyes must have spotted his movements above the tomb by now. However, she departed, leaving only Guinevere at the tomb. For a timeless moment, Percival was backed up firmly against the past, Lancelot's tomb, but had his arms wrapped around the future Guinevere. He could have been given no greater present than the time. After more stories, some about Alexis, Guinevere wished to give Perceval his freedom, and told him that she, too, could hardly endure such a triangle of love, and tried to send him away. "That I cannot do, my queen, for I swore an oath."
"Then I release you from your oath."
"That even you cannot do, my queen, for the oath belongs to the king and I, to us alone."
"Then perhaps in time we shall both love you, I from beyond your years, Alexis from afore your years, each of us supporting the others and giving life, a triumvirate with all of us as rulers, and all of us as subjects. And stop calling me your queen, for I am no longer a queen of anything. Yes, there was a time when I was party to an entire kingdom of earthly delight, when every night was at my beck and call, but now I am forgotten and presumed dead. More than a few years did I spend rotting in prisons and nunneries. Now we have but each other, perhaps the greatest blessing of all. I knew this to be true when I heard your life song from afar, an effect of Merlin's enchantment on you, I would surmise.
A toast. A toast, Percival declared. 3 glasses were raised to the sky. Percival having been urged to take the glass reserved for Lancelot in a salute to the White Knight, the Blanc de Blanc. The jewels of Orion's belt twinkled as starlight passed through their glasses. Perhaps those 3 stars were the twinkling of old Merlin's 3 eyes, those which could see the present, past, and future in only one glimpse.
May we all toast again in 3 places of the universe, here where we stand now then, in the old hall at Camelot, and finally in heaven.
The inscription on Lancelot's tomb read in French, "Lancelot and his only son Galahad lie not buried here but in your heart, and in the hearts of all men who would ride in their good stead throughout the ages."
My dear half-brother Galahad, how I need you now, but you are gone, gone to the Isle of the Blessed. Percival, who will be my brother now? Who will be my brother now?
Alexis lamented, her voice filled with sorrow and longing.
Yet he did speak aloud finally and said,
Alexis, I shall try to be all things to you as you require, for my heart and my enchantment allows me no selfishness.
Now, you may ask, dear reader, where did that damn weak-tailed frog come from that was mentioned a while back? Well, meanwhile, back in Orion, Merlin spit to the ground, and where the spit would have landed, a frog appeared, hopped away, and had a nice day. The jewels of Orion's belt twinkled as starlight passed through their glasses. Perhaps those 3 stars were the twinkling of old Merlin's 3 eyes, those which could see the present, past, and future in only one glimpse.
May we all toast again in 3 places of the universe, here where we stand now, then in the old hall at Camelot, and finally in heaven.
Falling stars streaked through the night as the October meteor shower began. Merlin once used this shower to convince people of his magic during hard times, and they believed it. They did.